I mean, that raises another point, is that if you're just an ordinary dumbass, how would you know? Like, if you're in a society where every dude says stupid sexist things all the time and gets away with it, how would you know to do better than that? How would you know that at some point, 20 years down the line, the whole world is going to change its mind and decide that that sort of behavior is not good enough anymore, and that people are going to come back and point out what a douchebag you were? Like, if you're just a dumbass, an ordinary dumbass, in an environment where being a douchebag is okay, how would you know several decades later it's gonna come back and be a problem for you? Exactly, no, that's exactly what's happening. I'm saying that this is exactly what happened. I mean, as society has slowly become more understanding and less accepting of unsocial behavior, of harming other people. Which brings me to another tangent, is that if you are a really progressive person and your ideas are several decades ahead of your time, which some people sometimes are, like people... Alright, Cody, what do you have to say? Cody says that's not the only thing, but it's a big thing this generation. Yes, it is, Cody. I mean, not that long ago, gay marriage became acceptable all of a sudden. Or, the tipping point was reached. And gender and sexuality issues are discussed more now. So, like, if you are a person who is forward-looking, let's say, and if you're the kind of person who can kind of understand what might happen 20 years in the future, and you behave as though you live 20 years in the future, then your life in the present moment is gonna be difficult because everyone else around you thinks you're an alien. Which reminds me of Bernie Sanders. Because you look at Bernie Sanders, like old videos of Bernie Sanders, he's been saying the same stuff for like 3 decades. And now all of a sudden, he's popular. Right? He's been saying the same crap 30 years, and it takes everyone else that long to realize that they actually want that stuff. So that's what happens when you are like a few decades ahead of your time, is that you just talk and everyone thinks you're crazy. Until at some point you're like 80 something years old, everybody suddenly realizes, hey, that guy has good ideas. And so that's what it's like. Imagine like 40 years ago, you respect women. All the guys are like, what a weirdo. Like, all the blokes think you're a weirdo. And then all of a sudden now, you become the guy who's like, oh no, he was right back then. But it's like, it's 30, 40 years down the line. And it's not just, these issues, it's things like, like Galileo talking about how the Earth revolves around the Sun as opposed to the Sun revolving around the Earth. Or is it Copernicus, who got thrown in prison for saying that? I mean, you get thrown in prison for looking through a telescope to discover the nature of the solar system. And then centuries later, everyone agrees that you're right. So if you do what you believe will be right several decades from now. Galileo? I mean, it's quite likely it's both, to be honest. Quite likely both of them got thrown in prison. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. I mean, you gotta ask yourself whether it's worthwhile to be vindicated after you die. Like, what if you're thinking 30 years in the future in the wrong direction? Well, then you're just wrong, Cody. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Sometimes people with wacky ideas are just wacky, and they're just wrong. That also happens. I'm not saying that everyone with unusual ideas is going to be vindicated 30 years down the line. You do those things at your own risk. You have interesting ideas at your own risk. That is true. Anyway, not to justify other people's bad behavior. It's just that I recognize sometimes you're in a situation where literally everyone around you is doing bad things, and so then like you don't get called out for several decades. You'd think if somebody called you out after a month and you just stop doing it, you'd be in much less trouble than if you're in a society where it's accepted for now and nobody calls you out for like 30 years and then they call you out and you're like, holy crap, I've been doing the wrong thing for 30 years now. Nobody told me. Well, somebody told you, but you didn't listen. And anyway, except murder. Well, the funny thing is sometimes murder is okay too. Usually, you know, murdering a particular group of people. Sometimes there are societies, Cody, where murdering a certain segment of the population is perfectly fine. No, dude, I'm talking about Nazi Germany. And of course, on the flip side, there are still people who think that sexual harassment is fine. I mean, those guys are like 30 years in the past. I mean, we're talking about people who have ideas 30 years in the future. Some people alive today have ideas that are 30 years in the past. And what on earth are those people doing? I always wish people were smarter, Cody. I always wish that everyone was just about 30 IQ points smarter than they are now. That's wrong. That there. I don't have much else to say. But I think one thing to keep in mind is that wait, what? I wish I was smarter too. Are you saying I'm not people? Are you a people, Cody? I mean, you just look like text to me. From my perspective, you look like text on a screen. What was I gonna say? I mean, in hindsight, a lot of things become questionable. So, like, everything that's happening now, happening now, I mean, we might look back at this 30 years in the future, and perhaps, like you say, Cody, then people will decide, okay, well, maybe some of that was excessive. That's possible. Although it's also possible that 30 years from now they'll look back and say, well, they had a long way to go before they got to even. Could go either way. But it's seldom the case. It's almost never the case that history looks back and says those guys were unambiguously correct. You think they'll say it's excessive? Cody says we've trying too hard to be situationally correct, that we've been passing by being good and more justified. Too much witch hunting ahead of us. Well, yeah, no. I mean, look, a lot of these allegations coming out, the big ones seem justified. I mean, these things still only get a lot of momentum when there's a lot of different witnesses all telling the same story, as far as I can tell. And you know, like, also there's not a lot of defense. Cody says, I don't mean the sexuality stuff, but that's a part of it. I don't know what you're talking about, Cody. Are you able to clarify? Are you able to clarify what exactly you're talking about? On-site Homeboy asks, what are you gonna do with all that power? What power are you talking about, Homeboy? Also, welcome to the stream. Through this jungle. Let's continue laying this redstone. That probably needs to go. And that. Cody says, I just mean past 5 to 10 years have had a steadily growing society of people that use what's socially correct to brand people in heretical kind of ways. Less about wanting the world to be better and just having an excuse to abuse people. I'm not sure that is what I see, Cody. Although we might be looking at different things. What are you looking at? The media? Social media? I mean, social media is skewed in the sense that the loudest voices drown out everyone else. Although, what was social? Okay, well, social media. A lot of shenanigans go on in social media. People have opinions on social media, Cody. I don't know if you've noticed. Let's see. 1, 2, 3 there. Power to the people, and if you give someone a kernel of truth in your argument, you tend to get a lot more blind faith in what you say. It lets people be cruel to each other in the name of justice. I'm not even sure, well, if it in the name of justice. But, you know, Cody, like, self-righteousness has existed long before social media. I mean, of course, it appears on social media, but it's just, it's one of those things about human nature that people, you know, have an impulse to prosecute. I'm not sure what the answer is, Cody. Eventually, I guess we have to figure out how to use social media in a way that's constructive. Well, it's, yeah, I mean, yes and no. It's, social media and the internet in general makes it a lot easier for the mob to communicate with each other. So if we talk about mobs, like large groups of humans who don't think about what they're doing individually and just follow the mob. So mobs, you know, like the internet allows the mob to communicate to each other a lot more efficiently. On the other hand, a lot of these people are keyboard warriors who will not bother to step outside to actually do something about it. You see what I mean? So on the one hand, I agree, Cody, that the discussion of things has been pushed into overdrive by social media. On the other hand, actual actions, I don't think has really ramped up as much. Right? I need to remember which side is which color. I guess I can just... Okay, let me run all the way back. Let me run all the way back to the other end of this road. Run, 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 run. Belief inspires actions, that's my only worry, says Cody. Yes, yes, and I do agree. I mean, some people will take action, at least. That's true. I'm not sure how we... There's no obvious solution that I can see though, Cody. Like the proliferation of misinformation on social media. Like, I don't really see an answer to that yet. Possibly AI. Possibly AI, if it develops a way to... Oh, I'm going the wrong way. If it develops a way to augment our ability to discern what is true and what is not, it might be useful. But that's like hoping for a magic solution to a human problem. I mean, I see things, or I look at things economically a lot of the times, in terms of costs. Cody says, I think the world just lacks the time to mentally absorb each situation with all its context in a society that has free access to mass information overload. That's right, that's right. And by AI, I'm talking about that exactly, is that maybe artificial intelligence will help us cope with the information overload a little bit better, is what I meant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, well, we need to keep punching dirt. But at the same time, you know, I say that, but maybe wishing for AI to solve our problems for us is like hoping for a miracle. There's no guarantee that it will solve the problem. It might make the problem worse. You know, like AI might be used to manipulate us even more thoroughly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, let's outline the iron.